Hello, I'm Susan Maxman, 1993 president of the American Institute of Architects, and you're listening to U.S. Modernist Radio.
Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna draw mine modern anyhow. Mama don't allow no architecture around here.
Welcome to U.S. Modernist Radio, where we talk and laugh with people who enjoy, own, create, dream about, preserve, love, and hate modernist architecture, the most exciting and controversial buildings in the world. I'm Tom Guild. This week, we'll gear up the conversations with Damien Lipp on tiny houses in Iceland, Long Beach Architecture Week Sal Flores, a modernist renovation in Altadena, that's near Los Angeles, with Goli Karimi, and later we'll talk with musical guest Nicole Zuraitis. And now here's your host, hopefully sitting in 9F, Mr. Modernism, George Smart.
Thank you, Tom. And hi, I'm George, and I am a very frequent flyer. Mostly on American, with my favorite coach seat 9F, but sometimes Delta and JetBlue. You never want to get on row 8 because that's at the bulkhead, and even though there's more room up there, you got to put all your stuff up in the overhead bins and then take it back down, and then put it back up, and then take it back down. What a hassle. 9F, that's the way to go. I don't like to fly in United, though, since I saw that United Breaks Guitars video about 10 years ago. Then a few weeks later, just from that, I looked out my United window to see ground crew kicking and throwing baggage around like those old Samsonite commercials with the gorillas.
Oh, my God.
Back in the heyday of modernist houses, 1945 to 1970, air travel was very different. People typically dressed up. Nowadays, the planes are all full of sweatpants and hoodies, which is fine. There was no TSA. You just walked in the terminal, waited for your flight, and got on. The hijackers of the 70s ruined that for all of us. Air travel was the gateway to an exciting adventure, even if that adventure was Cleveland, and airport design reflected a joyous optimism. Eero Saarinen's TWA terminal at JFK, now a beautifully restored hotel, and his terminal at Washington Dulles, now a larger version of itself, would have blown up Instagram had Instagram existed in the 1960s. Both buildings still capture the wonder of flight and space, and they are wondrously Instagrammable. The TWA terminal was the Taylor Swift of its time, full of independence and strength and visually appealing curves that, thanks to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, you can still visit today. When the building closed in the 90s as a terminal, the Port Authority wisely chose to put it in mothballs instead of tearing it down. It took decades, but the building opened up as a hotel and conference center about 5 years ago. So next time you're going to JFK, try to fly there on JetBlue. You can walk from the JetBlue terminal to the TWA hotel in 5 minutes through one of these cool 1960s travel tubes. Have a drink in the lobby bar, where the retro flight arrival and departure signs clickety-click-click every few minutes. You'll be transported back in time to the glamorous mid-century modern air travel era. The feeling will be much more intense, however, and the drink will taste better if you're not in sweatpants. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Los Angeles, Malibu, and Palm Springs.
Melbourne, Australia-based cinematographer, director, and producer Damien Lipp has been making films in Australia and around the globe for more than a decade. His firm, Be More Designs, co-founded with his partner and wife, Stephanie Mauro, specializes in creating and enhancing brands through campaign design, brand identity, website design, videography, and production. Their most recent project is the Shelter Stream series, Tiny Spaces, Iceland, a look at the remarkable architecture of Iceland's smallest houses. Welcome to the show, Damien and Stephanie.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Before we get into the architecture, guys, I got to ask about the Gypsy Cafe. Tell me about that.
Oh, it was just an idea we sort of had about 6 years ago. We were like, I was working in cafes while making films, and Steph was also doing her design stuff while also making films. And I didn't really want to own a cafe, and I thought, we can just make something that's mobile and do corporate catering and do some film work, then do some coffee, and then
travel.
Travel and shoot films, and then just sort of put a finger in a bunch of pies. So that's sort of how that came around.
So was it an actual Jeep that was a coffee shop?
Yeah.
That's how it started. It was a
Jeepsy Cafe.
Yeah.
and it started with that. And then we figured, well, that's not going to work when we're going into some offices. So we better build some coffee carts. And because Damien's very hands-on kind of guy, now we have about 4 coffee carts, and we never use the Jeep.
So, yeah.
So do you still go out to locations and sell coffee?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so we do corporate catering.
As well as the filmmaking.
Tell us your best coffee secret for how to prepare it at home.
It's all about the grind.
Yep.
Yeah, the grind?
It's all about the extraction. That's it. That's the secret.
And it needs to be hot enough to get the extraction right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So hotter than boiling? I mean, you can only go up to...
No, not hotter than boiling.
No.
Depends. Different coffee machines run at different temperatures. There's a fair science to it. So
all right.
I've been doing it for about 15 years. I don't know if I can put it into one little capsule.
He's very particular, though.
Tiny Houses Iceland is a follow-up to Tiny Houses Australia, and I've seen episodes of that online. But what got you from Australia to Iceland? How did that come about?
So I was working on a project over there with a science team. We were filming the volcanoes that just erupted. I'm going to butcher the name. It's
okay. Icelandic is just like somebody ran their fingers across a keyboard. It's not pronounceable.
It's the Fagradalsfjall volcano, which had erupted, and the scientists were trying to figure out whether we could put people on the moon or Mars. And we're just going to find out how long it would take microorganisms to come back to life after a volcano had erupted in the lava tunnels.
Mm.
And then we worked on the glacier in Skaftafell, where we would also test how much the glacier was dissipating. So it was when it rains, the water hits the top of the glacier, but also when the ice melts, there creates a river which creates a stream underneath the glacier. So they were wondering how much it would evaporate from the top and also how much it's eroding from the bottom. So it's not just a single erosion. So, it was just pretty intense, pretty scary, and pretty fun.
So he was filming that.
Yeah.
And then we figured, well, we're already here. Let's
let's tack on
do
another
something with
documentary.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a tiny house.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot.
And then we called Dustin and Camille, and I told them about the opportunity, and we said, look, we're over here. We may as well sort of kill 2 birds with one stone, and
Or 2 birds with one volcano, really.
Well, yeah.
These Iceland houses, these small houses, are typically modern like everybody else, but there are these turf houses which seem to use ancient technologies. Tell me about those.
It's not so much used anymore. It was more of a technique that we used in the Viking days, and it was Steph can explain this one, sorry.
I think it's just like a really traditional Icelandic technique of building homes. So they were very well insulated in winter when obviously there was no power to heat homes. Nowadays, it's seen as dirty, and like this is people's opinions. Apparently, they see it as dirty and disgusting, these turf homes. But now architects are utilizing the turfing in these modern day structures. First of all, it's beautiful, but also it works well with energy conservation. And they're making these incredible architecturally built homes all around Iceland with this technique now. So I think people's opinions are slowly changing on turf again.
Tell us what the turf is in Iceland.
So the turf is literally, they've dug it up they just used everything off the land that they could. So they would grow it, and then they would excavate it. They would dig like layers of dirt. It has layers of dirt like this. And they would just lay the houses with it.
Describe it because it's not shown.
Oh, sorry.
He was holding his hands about 8 inches apart.
This is a podcast, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Them just depends. There might be layers of, say, 3 inches at some parts, and then there's also layers of 10 inches of soil, and then the very top layer was the grass, so which would blend into the landscape. There were different techniques. There was like fish scales, like there would be
Herringbone, you mean?
Sorry, herringbones patterns, like a Z sort of pattern, because when you look at the side of the building, you can actually see it going up the side of the building. Then there was like a cake sort of layered.
And they would just layer it and layer it and layer it and layer it for further insulation.
And these turf houses were fairly durable. I mean, they would last.
Yeah, they still have lasted.
Still there since the days. Obviously, they just get returned over, and I guess you would say they renovate the property. They would just keep cutting the turf out off the land and just keep updating it. And then they would use like animal hides for windows, like just stretching not so much to see through, but just to
let light through.
Oh, sorry, the lining of the animal stomach for the windows. So yeah, very, very hands-on and very much off the land.
Now, Stephanie, what is the difference between an Australian tiny house and an Icelandic tiny house?
In Australia, we have a lot more options in terms of creativity and materials we can use. We really are designed well for the landscape, but we have, again, a lot more options because the weather's not so harsh. But in Iceland, there's a lot of variables in weather. You can have freak hurricanes or tornadoes on the waterfront, or sandstorms, or
there's also no trees.
That is
really to speak of.
Yeah, there's no
their trees are shrubs.
Yeah,
there's no supplies there basically.
Yes.
And that was actually one of the main reasons that they would make the houses out of turf. And a lot of the wealthier people back in the day would gain sort of the status because of the driftwood. So they would collect the driftwood that would come from Siberia.
Yeah, Siberian driftwood.
And they would just collect it from the ocean, and that's how they would build these houses. And there was a sign of status having a wooden house.
How did Iceland become a destination for Siberian driftwood? That seems a little odd.
Depends on how you look at the globe.
It would just drift onto their ocean.
Every now and then there's a sighting of polar bears in Iceland, and that's because they would drift across on icebergs that would come from Greenland as well. So they thought that was quite a...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, across the Arctic Ocean, Siberia is not that far away.
And they had a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it did come.
They still do.
Siberian driftwood.
Yes.
Yep.
In Iceland, are these houses designed by architects? Is it more do-it-yourself projects? How is it structured there? Largely.
Are we talking turf tiny homes?
No, the conventional, more modern tiny homes.
I would say probably architects would get involved, because I don't think it's very easy to build in the area without having experts guide you. You would need, people to really work alongside with you as the owner to make sure that it's compliant, structurally sound, it's going to withstand the weather, the glass is thick enough, the wood, like some of the people used wood that wasn't treated properly, and all the paint got stripped off. So they used, what is it, shosugiban, which is,
the Japanese technique of burning wood and
so it's treated properly and it's going to withstand. Yeah, so I'd say architects would often get involved with these tiny home projects, especially if they have turfing on the top. That's not something that's very easy to do yourself, because there's not a lot of people that know how to do it anymore. And they still do classes on how to do it.
And also we did an episode called The Water Tower, and the guy was the family that did it were very much do-it-yourselves. But they also ran it by their architectural friend saying, hey, if I do this and this and this, is it going to work? And the architect would come and say, yep, do this, this and this, and it's going to be fine. So it's not so much the creative mind of an architect, but also I think it's just a bit of a team plan.
I think an architect has to get involved, not just from the aesthetic side, just from the structural side.
Yeah.
And how small are these houses?
They vary.
Some of the water tower that I'm talking about, it was classed as a micro home because of the footprint that it had on the land. So you could imagine the size of a water tower's base not being very big. So I think it was about 25 square meters, I think, not square feet, because that's pretty small. So I think it's 25 square meters base, but it was 3 stories high.
Oh.
So it was still classed as a small footprint. But there was also another one. The barn that we did had more of a smaller footprint, but still had 3 bedrooms in it. And then there was
You're talking the bigger ones though, but
the glass cottage was tiny. It was literally a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen.
And
that was it.
How many?
I don't remember the square footage of that.
12?
12 square.
8?
No. No, it's bigger than that. Like maybe like a shipping container size.
Okay. Now, while you were filming this, did the two of you fall in love with any particular tiny house design and want to do it yourself back in Melbourne?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, we do renovations ourselves back home, so it's very much is like you definitely steal ideas from these places, and every one of the houses was just every one of them had their own unique design and was definitely something we would take away to put in our own houses.
We drew inspiration from all of the homes, to be honest, because we would like to buy a block of land in Victoria somewhere and put some corrugated steel sort of shipping container somewhere. And I just see how they utilize the space over there where you don't, like Ari says, from the glass cottage, like you go there and you don't need to consume much. You don't need a lot of things. You just go and you take a couple of things and you can have a bit of respite. And I think that attitude is so inspiring. And back home, we're very, very overwhelmed by, our day-to-day distractions. And that just is something I would love to have as part of our lives, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
The series is called Tiny Spaces Iceland. It's available on the Shelter.stream architecture streaming service. And you can also find there Tiny Spaces Australia. Damien and Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us because it's 5 a.m. where you are, so you're great sports.
Thanks very much, guys.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Cal State Long Beach alum Sal Flores is the founder and CEO of Calo Creative, the company behind the lifestyle website Long Beach Home and Living. He's also the president of Long Beach Architecture Week, which leverages tours, events, and educational opportunities to focus on architecture, preservation, and sustainable development. A graduate in graphic design at Cal State Long Beach.
Go Beach. That's their team name.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a longtime LGBTQ advocate, encouraging sustainable living and community engagement with diverse audiences all around Long Beach. Welcome to the show, Sal.
Hello. Hi. How you doing?
So, Sal, our research team has determined that there's really no bigger Long Beach, California booster than you. You are quite the cheerleader. How come?
I just love my community. I came here for college, fell in love with the city, and I just love where I live. I love my city, the community that comes together, and it's just a magical place. We're right by the beach. It's LA's, 20 minutes away, and it's just a perfect, little town by the sea.
How long have you been there?
I've been here for about 21 years or so. So I came right after high school, and I haven't left.
What had you start Long Beach Architecture Week? That's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, our marketing agency, we did events, and we were one of the magazines. Talking to my partner, we were talking about how we haven't worked at a project together. So we both like architecture and design. So we said, well, why don't we do one of the issues of the magazine, architecture, right? About the Long Beach architecture. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of Art Deco. So then one of our business partners said, why don't we do some kind of talks and events? And then that transitioned into, we looked at Modernism Week in Palm Springs. And then it just exploded into this, 10-day event with multiple events, talks, tours. It happened in 4 months. I mean, we decided in December, and by, June, we were already going for it. So
it's another one of these weeks that's 10 days long.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. They get longer and longer all the time. It's inflation, Tom.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Now, for people that are visiting Long Beach and want to see some great modernist architecture, what are some of the must-sees, Sal?
Well, there's definitely Park Estates has a lot of mid-century modern ranchos. Long Beach back in the 50s, 60s, they did it to help with the workers in the area working for the port. But that was, there's a lot of mid-century modern. Actually, Long Beach is full of Art Deco. So Long Beach is known for its Art Deco buildings. After the 33 earthquake, Long Beach got a lot of money to rebuild because a lot of our schools, a lot of public spaces got destroyed because of the earthquake. So then they got through that federal grant back in the, 40s, 50s. They were able to build new schools and new buildings, all kinds of Art Deco. So we have a lot of that and a lot of craftsmen, beautiful craftsman homes. So Long Beach has a plethora of architecture design.
Now, although it's not modernist, you also have the Queen Mary there.
Oh, right.
How is that doing?
Yeah.
It's kind of had an up and down history. I know at one point it was a museum, it was a hotel, they had some restaurants going. Then the pandemic came along. How is it doing now?
It just recently reopened. It was closed for, pandemic, and after pandemic, trying to figure it out. There's been some legal issues with the people that were running it and the city, and now the city took it back again, and they're responsible for it. So they just recently reopened. They have a beautiful, beautiful, masterpiece Art Deco bar. It's just the observation bar. It's just stunning. If you guys are into Art Deco, you got to go check it out.
Also, what's really fun, because I've done this, is spending the night in one of the staterooms.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. You feel like you're going back in time, almost 100 years.
Right.
Really. Because if you've gone on a modern day cruise, the rooms look nothing like they do today at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not haunted like the Queen Mary.
Well, there's a
Everybody
plus.
says.
Yeah.
Must be popular at Halloween.
Yeah. You want to have your martinis with ghosts.
Right. Yeah. No, they do a big Halloween thing, and people claim they, see and feel things and, whatnot. But I've been many times. I've never seen or heard anything.
Yeah. Now, Long Beach Architecture Week also bestows preservation awards. So what are some of the notable projects there that have been pulled back from demolition and are doing well now?
Well, our most recent one, we just did a penthouse, the largest penthouse at the Villa Rivera. If you guys know the Villa Rivera, it's probably the most iconic building in Long Beach. We just, for the first time after almost 40 years, got toured, and we were, the first ones to bring it back. And they just restored it. The new owners just did an amazing, amazing job. They went back to its original colors, its original floor. It's just stunning. So it was our number one tour this last year. I think that's the latest one. We just did, we worked with Dunn Edwards, the Lafayette building. It's a high rise here in downtown. Also,
is this Dunn Edwards, the paint people?
Yes.
We just had them on the show. Yes. Okay.
They're wonderful. So they actually, we were able, through Architecture Week, we were able to get Dunn Edwards to actually do a grant to pay for or help with the whole repainting of a giant building. It's a 10-story building. It's beautiful. They did restoring of the stucco outside, beautiful stuff. Cost a lot of money, but it was fantastic. And now they named the color after the Lafayette. So Dunn Edwards now has a new color that, they painted the building. So it's been named after the Lafayette. And it's stunning.
Wow. I think that's when you know you've made it, when you get a color named after you.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have dates yet for the 2024 Long Beach Architecture Week?
We are in the process. Right now, we are switching. I am actually stepping down as the president. So we are switching gears. And Ashley Stone, she's our newest president. She'll be taking over in the next few weeks. But yes, we're planning. It'll be sometime at the beginning of June. We're looking at, actual dates. The problem is, depending on what's going on with the city and events that are already happening, we'll decide on that, the end of May, June. But it's always going to be around between May and June.
Sal, what's the website for your Architecture Week?
So the website's lbarchweek.com. You can get all the information there. You can sign up to get involved, get on the newsletter. We'll have more information as it gets closer to the date. We've only been around, 2019 was our first year. Then obviously 2020 happened. And then we didn't come back until 2021. We did virtual. And that was kind of, a mess. Nobody knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And then came back this last year, 2022 and 2023, and it's just been a huge success ever since.
Sal, thanks so much for joining us. I can't wait to come to your week sometime and spend 10 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'd love to have you.
Interior architect Goli Karimi is a graduate of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
Go Cajuns!
And she's design director for the Los Angeles-based design build firm Homefront Build, specializing in green construction and preservation. She was vice president at Cynthia Bennett and Associates, and she is current president of the American Society of Interior Designers Pasadena chapter. Alongside her partner Deb Smith, a mid-century modern enthusiast and photographer, she completed the renovation of their mid-century dream home. It's in Altadena, California, and was recently featured in Atomic Ranch. Welcome, Goli.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Goli, you know that in the profession of law, they say that an attorney who represents themselves has a fool for a client. So how was it taking on your own house renovation?
It really wasn't too bad because I had about 30 years to think about it. Not everything got done at the same time. So, little by little, we did different things, but the biggest project was the kitchen and the laundry room that we did last year. So I really did have a long time to think about it. I had done a sketch of the kitchen probably about 15, 20 years ago. That I would, look at it once in a while, like thinking about the day I would actually get it done. So we were able to pull it off. And as far as the other rooms, they were all really minor changes because the house is laid out nicely. And honestly, not much needed to get changed. It was mostly cosmetics. The biggest change was the kitchen and the laundry.
So how close did the kitchen wind up being to that sketch from 15 years ago?
The layout was very similar. The only thing is I was able to gain more space by just taking the laundry room out of the kitchen. 15 years ago, I didn't think about doing that. But after living in the house, for many years, we were able to find another place for the laundry room and make the kitchen really function well. It's really laid out perfectly now. I love it every day when I go into the kitchen.
Tell us about the house. Who designed it?
The house was designed by this Swiss-born architect. Her name was Gisela Meyer. And, we always wondered who designed our house, but we couldn't find anything. And one day, a friend of ours was doing research at the Altadena Heritage for another house, and we asked her if she could find anything about our house. She was able to find the original owner, an engineer that was a professor at USC. And we just Googled his name and a phone number came up and we called him and he told us about the architect who worked closely with his wife to build this house. And she was a Swiss artist and took some classes by Kim Weber. And he told them that, if you're ever in LA, come by. And she did. And she came out here and apprenticed under him. And she went on to build many homes in the Pasadena and La Cañada area. So it was very interesting to find this piece of information about her.
And she was not an architect by training, is that right?
She was not. And I don't think she ever went to school for architecture, but she just was a good learner, obviously, and had great space planning capabilities. And I love the way she oriented our house because our house is in a very narrow lot. It's about 45 feet. It's actually 50, but it narrows to 45, but it's like 200 feet deep.
Wow.
And cross-section of it, it's about a 20-foot drop from the neighbor on the west to the neighbor on the east.
Oh.
But this property was actually the gardens of the house next door to us, which was the original house on that block. It's still standing, beautiful old house. And our property was their gardens that stepped down into the other property, and they had orange groves. And in the 50s, Some of these lots were subdivided. There are several homes next to me that were built in the 50s, and our house, built in 1960, was really the narrowest lot, just this last sliver of land that they subdivided, and we were able to get this house. But she really didn't change the topography. Under our house, you can still walk in, and the concrete steps and the river rock landing and steps are still there. So she kept that as the retaining wall and then built this house over it. So to enter the house, you actually walk on an elevated pathway and a deck and enter the house on the side. From the street, there are no doors or windows. It has really no curb appeal. But as soon as you go around the corner and you see the magnificent view of the San Gabriel Mountains, you realize you're in a special house.
Now, the house was in foreclosure with the bank when you bought it and had been vacant for a while. What did you find when you first walked in?
When we first walked in, we were elated because of the high ceiling in the living room, dining room, beautiful beamed and wood ceiling. But everything was painted white except for the wood ceiling. I was so happy to see that that was not touched. But all the cabinets, all the walls, everything was painted white. And the entire house had carpeting except for the bathrooms and entry that had like a gray tile that was probably put in the 80s. But the carpet was new, and, the bathrooms and the kitchens looked decent. The tiles really are still in great shape. Both bathrooms have original tile, and it still looks great. I have no desire to replace it anytime soon. And the kitchen, if the cabinets were not falling apart, I could have probably saved the countertop and the backsplash, but the cabinets just were not worth working around. It needed to come down. So it wasn't bad.
Goli, your project really hit the big time because you were featured recently in Atomic Ranch.
Yes, we were that's our all-time favorite magazine. And when we finished the kitchen and were able to photograph the property, we sent some photos to Jiki Torres at Atomic Ranch, and she immediately said she was interested. So we were very happy to be featured. We love that magazine and read it cover to cover when we get it in the mail. So yes, that was a real honor to be included.
And you got a multi-page spread.
It's like 10 pages, yes. Yeah. It's very exciting.
That's a big deal.
Unfortunately, the laundry room was not finished by the time they photographed, but that couldn't be featured. But the laundry room is also spectacular. I love doing laundry now.
Isn't it great when architecture has you like laundry? That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yes.
Goli, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to learn about your project and its recognition.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed chatting with you.
New York-based jazz singer-songwriter, pianist, arranger, bandleader, and ace soccer star Nicole Zuraitis plays all the great jazz clubs like Dizzy's, Birdland, Blue Note, the Café Carlisle, and 54 Below with her own quartet and other groups. With a degree from NYU.
Go Violets!
And an MBA from LSU.
Go Tigers!
Nicole was nominated for a Grammy in 2019 for her arrangement of Dolly Parton's Jolene, and in 2021 won the American Traditions Vocal Competition Gold Medal. She recently released her 6th studio album, How Love Begins, featuring all original music. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for reading my bio. That sounds so fab.
Oh, yes. Well, our research team went even deeper and discovered that as a teenager in Litchfield, Connecticut, you grew up around some of the classic modernist houses by Marcel Breuer and others. Were you aware of those in Litchfield?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, I always knew that Litchfield was notorious for being quaint and having quite like a deep history. But in terms of modern architecture, this is news to me. This is fascinating.
Well, they would be the funny-looking houses.
Yeah, the weird houses at the end of the street, yeah.
The ones that everyone's going, how did those get there when everything else is a New England cottage?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, when they were built, the neighbors came with pitchforks and torches, that kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, I do know those houses.
See, we knew it.
I think we threw eggs at them as children. Yeah, we were told. Our parents said, "Go do that."
Now, before jazz, you were a real soccer star. I guess you still are, right? Do you still play?
Oh my gosh, I could barely run a lap. It's so funny. Was that on Wikipedia? I gotta edit that out. I don't know how to. If anyone listening knows how to edit Wikipedia, please. No, I mean I was quite good at sports growing up because I had a growth spurt, and I was much taller and larger than the boys. So they had me play on the boys' soccer team in middle school.
Puberty.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was just, I guess, too aggressive for the girls, and so they put me on the boys' team. And then I played Olympic development, and I also was a tennis player. But I had such a penchant for music and I was always kind of a strange egg. Speaking of eggs, sorry. I just loved like Pat Benatar and the Eagles and Led Zeppelin and Van Halen and Ella Fitzgerald. And, I played the trombone. So even though I was like playing sports competitively, I felt like I wasn't like around my people, if that made sense. I felt like the odd one out, even though I was doing well. And then when I was doing Olympic development in France, we were playing like I don't remember, like U19 team, or they were much older, and somebody took me out. I tore both my hip flexors, and I remember secretly being like thrilled.
My career is coming to an end.
Yeah, my career is coming to an end. Now I can go be a mediocre musical theater singer, just like I've always dreamed.
Well, but your hips will like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now I just sit on my hips playing the piano and singing. So I guess I did my hips a favor, I suppose.
Not many vocalists, Nicole, have an MBA. So have you cracked the code of making good money as a performer?
I'm working on it. I am working on it. I would say that my MBA was definitely an impulsive decision during COVID, but also not impulsive. I would say I had two sides to me. One was COVID made me feel, my husband's a drummer and we're both musicians, and we were like, wow, apparently we're not like essential, right? Even though art was so essential during the pandemic, we had like a moment of panic where we were going, well, my goodness, what if things don't open up? And so he started to do like coding for 2 months. And I had always been asked to teach at universities, but I didn't have a master's, because I was like, well, what do I need a master's of music for if I'm already doing music full time? But I also love to teach, so I kind of needed to cut through that red tape. So a friend of mine suggested get a master's in something else that you find interesting. And I don't know why I chose an MBA. I skipped the interesting part, honestly. And I was like, what's the fastest, cheapest, accredited thing? I mean, I'm extraordinarily honest. I could make it seem, like it was a big plan all along, but music is a business, right? So
yeah, big time.
It just seemed like a good choice, a good choice for me. I completed it within a year, all online. And then next thing you know, right as it was finishing up, the world opened back up again. And then now I teach at NYU and at SUNY Purchase, because I have a master's degree, not in music, but it all kind of worked itself out. And I'm still trying to crack the code of money, but I definitely learned that delegating out is definitely the move, regardless of whatever profession you're doing.
Tell us about this first song that you wrote called Burn.
So Burn is the first single on the new record, How Love Begins. And I wanted to do a burner song, like something super fast and swinging, because I had a special guest, Billy Kilson, playing drums, who's an incredible, pretty well-known jazz drummer. And of course, Christian McBride, 8-time Grammy-winning bassist, who co-produced the record with me. And so, when you think of the best bass player in the world, you think of Christian McBride. I said, well, I better do something fast and give him a solo. So I wrote this tune, and I envisioned it as that fleeting moment before you really dive into a romance, and where you're going, oof, this seems dangerous. And you go, oh, what the heck? And then you just kind of jump over the ledge.
When I didn't know that I could burn so slow, deceptive ease and constant flow of vertigo, all worlds colliding in this tableau. How sincere the depth of what you say. I'll stay, if only for today. didn't know that youth could seem so wise, starting over, taken by surprise. All that's discovered within your eyes, and the spark that lit the fire inside, I'll try until I choose to run or say goodbye. Accents linger, trembling fingers, that certain look upon your face. And oh, the nervous fear of new beginnings, while I'm searching for excuses to let go. And no, I didn't know that I could burn so slow. Deceptive ease and constant flow of vertigo. Courage invited to take a chance. I think I'll finally try a new romance. Trembling fingers, that certain look upon your face. And oh, the nervous fear of new beginnings, while I'm searching for excuses to let go. And oh, I didn't know that I could burn so slow. Deceptive ease and constant flow of vertigo. Courage invited to take a chance. I think I'll finally try a new romance.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is a great song.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask, you've had a long association in education, not just at the college level, but with the Litchfield, Connecticut Jazz Camp. How long have you been involved in that?
I began as a student there when I was wearing soccer shorts at 12 years old as a trombone player. And they had just formed the camp. And, you know, I went the first year that it existed. And then 2 years later, you know, my parents said, do you want to try and go again? And I said, I don't know how I feel about this jazz business, but okay. And I went as a piano player. And then I was horrifyingly shy. I would not solo on the piano or on the trombone. Then I took a couple years off. And during my high school years, I was playing trombone in the jazz band. And my instructor, Joe Giacovino, said, do you want to sing with the big band? I said, yeah, sure. That sounds so great. So I would sing jazz, and the next thing you know, I was thinking, well, maybe I should go to that Litchfield Jazz Camp again. So I reached out and said, can I volunteer in exchange for scholarship? And so I did office work in exchange for scholarship, and then I started to shadow wonderful jazz vocalists. I shadowed Sheila Jordan, I shadowed Kevin Mahogany, Karen Allison, Vanessa Rubin, Stephanie Nakassian, and I learned a lot from them. And then eventually I've taken over the position. So now I'm the vocal jazz instructor at Litchfield Jazz Camp. And I'm there every summer for a week or two.
And how long has that been now?
20 years?
Yeah.
My journey with them is like 18 till now, so about 20 years. It's like a family to me, all of them. Yeah.
That's really awesome. Thank you for doing that and for that contribution.
I love working with up-and-coming musicians, and I really believe that everyone can sing. You know, not everybody has to do music full-time. You can just sing for the joy of it. You don't have to be a total masochist and do it as a career. Like you could just sing because it's fun.
Right. Yeah. While you play soccer or get your MBA.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or play the trombone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All of which I'm still very suspect decisions. I'm a bit impulsive, but it's fine.
This next song is called Two Fish, which instantly has me think of Dr. Seuss, but that has nothing to do with the song, right?
No. Do you want to know about the song before you play it, or tell you after?
No, go ahead.
The song is based off the Hebrew poem by Dalia Rakabovich called Shnei Dagim, Two Fish. And before I got married to my husband, Dan Pugat, who is originally from Israel, he's a wonderful drummer, Grammy-nominated composer, arranger as well. And, you know, I wanted to surprise him with a song, writing a song for him. So I had this poem by Dalia Rakabovich translated to English, and then I poetically translated it and set it to music. So it's how great the depth of their love. So it's essentially what it's saying. It's like the love is deeper than the ocean, as the old cliche goes. But I surprised him at our wedding. It was adorable.
So it's not one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
No, but it is two fish stove.
Here's Nicole with Two Fish.
Two fish dove to the bottom of the sea, eager to share their love's journey. Two fish raced into the ocean deep. The further they went, their bond grew dramatically. So large it grew, and suddenly they knew never more would they venture above. Their mouths never weary, or ears tired of hearing how great the depth of their love. Then one fish turned and said with glee, if I could tell the loving sea how it felt when you looked at me, she'd leave her shores or breezes, leave her shells and beaches, leave her sand and seagulls to embrace us and be free. Follow away to the bottom of the sea. Maybe those two fishes would soon become three or four, if push comes to shove. Always together since that shore above. Their mouths never weary, or ears tired of hearing how great the depth of their love. How great the depth of their love. their love. How great the depth of their love. How great the depth of their love.
That is beautiful. Lovely.
That's a sexy song.
Yeah. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Nicole, where are you going to be performing in 2024? Have you got some bookings?
It's funny because right now I've been touring this record like so much in 2023. And in 2024, generally, I'm once a month at Birdland with the big band. I'm going abroad on a European tour in May, and then hopefully I'll be doing even more touring for How Love Begins if things go well for the rest of the year. Yeah, I'm always playing in the city. So if you follow me at Nicole Z Music, you'll see them. I always have a show somewhere, so try and keep busy.
This has been really delightful. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole.
Thank you for your time and for all that you do to, share original music. You're awesome.
Thanks for listening. We can't wait to see you out in Palm Springs in February. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Los Angeles, Malibu, and Palm Springs. Okay, Tom, wrap us up.
Visit usmodernist.org's massive archives to listen to past shows, discover documentation of 20,000 significant modernist houses, and access 4.3 million pages of classic 20th century architecture magazines. U.S. Modernist Radio is produced by Soundtracks Recording Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our theme song is performed by George Smart and Robinson Earl. Kelly Policelli heads up guest research. U.S. Modernist Radio is a production of Modernist Archive Incorporated, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of modernist residential design. I'm Tom Guild. George and I will be back soon with another edition of U.S. Modernist Radio.